Anyway, anyway, we got a new premiere. We got a live premiere going on. Let's pull it up here.
Well, like when they post it,
we're gonna learn about the internet. You guys ready to learn about the internet? We'll see what the normies are up to.
Attraction because it's resonating with some sort of real life experience.
Right. Well, it's just
Facts.
like observational, like character driven comedy. Did you ever watch those like shit my mom says or like shit Italian moms, shit Jewish moms? It's just like that, right? Like, and those are neither like they're
Dude, the beards look so bad on people. Beards look so bad on people. Some people are okay, but most people beard looks so bad. But once again, I think some people are just unfortunate skull shapes.
It's like
that's
like
what
in
it
this,
is.
Yeah, and
this is Kathrine
so
Dee
because it's like if that's who your wife is or if that's who your mom is, I mean that's what makes comedy funny. In most instances, it's recognizable.
We're gonna learn about the internet. We're gonna learn about the internet.
There's this other kind of rallying point. And I think it's kind of indicative of some sort of
more like, dude, that's messed up. Anyway, no, there is a what's it called? There's a speaking of the JQ, there's some Romanian guy. I forget his name, but he has a quote, and it's a very apt quote. It says, "Jews can only thrive in the swamp of our sins. Jews are like mosquitoes that thrive in the swamp of our sins." And it's true. And it's true. It's like, Jews, they're not, if a system works, you don't really see Jewish people messing with people who are, plumbers. Jewish people who are, they're not really, there's not a lot of Jewish games going on in garbage collection, like as you work a route of garbage collection, because it's actually work. In places like finance and places like media, where there's lots of vices and there's not really work, it's kind of just scams. There is actually a lot of Jews because it's a very sinful thing generally.
Line between the chud and the chad is somehow like what the wife jack.
Oh, here we go, wife jack.
Like how you see wife jack and like how you approach the woman in her stupid things that she says or the kind of the tensions that she pronounces in your relationship. How you approach that is either you're gonna be the kind of more masculine, loving, caring, or you're gonna have a negative response, and so it seems like people are saying this is a positive.
I think so. Exercise. I mean, it's like I think the sitcom analogy makes the most sense, right? Like Modern Family or Married with Children or any of these shows, everyone looks sort of goofy, but it's ultimately a pro-family message. None of these shows are saying, fuck your wife and kids or your, whatever, right? But I think that, and that's why, like, not understanding that sort of playful humor, I think, is offensive to people. And I think there's maybe even like not to overanalyze it or over-intellectualize it so
much. That's why
there's
we're
like
here.
this,
come on,
almost like, right,
bro, dude.
Actually, have come to such a point where people are so disconnected that they can't have that playful humor with their families or about like a hypothetical family because everything's so tense. And whether or not you can take the, like when Henny Youngman was saying one-liners about, take my wife, please, right? That's not misogynistic. That's not anti-woman, boomer, like wife humor. And this is what I was trying to say too when I tweeted this out, that these one-liners aren't about I hate my wife and kids. It's you love them so much that you can call them, the ball and chain or whatever. And we don't have it can only be understood literally because there's so much hatred right now and there's so much tension and disconnection.
Do you think that hatred and disconnection is not a bit of an illusion because that's what our attention is drawn to? Don't we kind of magnify it and over?
I think it's both, right?
Yeah.
It's because most people don't have happy family lives, just statistically. So there's I believe sort of what people say about atomization. We don't have the same communities we did even in the 90s. But it's what you're saying is also true that the sexes aren't so polarized. Like men and women don't hate each other as much as Twitter would have you believe if you got filtered into the wrong algorithmic bubble.
What's your message been lately?
With my writing?
Yeah, with your work.
Jesus,
I've
this
been
is like a
writing a
creepy
lot
Discord
like,
call.
for years and years.
This is like a creepy
I
Discord
I
call. I'll be
started
back
out,
in a
I mean, I
minute.
think it's maybe you remember, I was sort of like a moderate voice in the gender wars. Like I kind of, I was like saying like, well, maybe there is a limit to how much casual sex someone should have. And of course, this immediately gets coded as conservative, whatever. And then like in 2022, I kind of like, I had always written about the internet, but I sort of like got really into internet culture. Something like switched in my brain, and I leaned way into mediated relationships. Um, human computer relationship, human computer human. Uh, you know, um, so for the last few years, I mean, I've been writing a lot about how people relate to one another online. Simulated relationships, whether it's really a simulation. I've been really into AI lately, like can a chatbot be a friend?
Hmm.
Things like this. I'm
Did
really
you
into
did you get into that incident that happened not too long ago? A suicidal teen took his life because he fell in love with a Game of Thrones AI. I think that was what happened.
Is that sort of what I think it was? It was a little bit sensationalized.
Yeah.
Um, it seemed. Oh, here's my read on the situation. I think he was addicted to the chatbot, but was already depressed. Maybe his depression would have alleviated had he taken other steps to treat it. There was at some point um, the AI like seemingly encouraged suicide, but in the final hour really didn't. If you look at the chat logs, and he wrote often in his diary about how he felt he wanted to go to sort of like a fictional world with this AI chatbot, right? But I don't think I don't think the software caused it. I think there's a fair critique of like we need better guardrails because mentally ill people do use technology. Um, something I've been looking into recently is like the intersection of erotomania and romance scams, right?
Erotomania?
Right. So like people who have these sort of erotic or romantic obsessions that rises to the level of its, a pathology, how they become vulnerable in romance scams. So, there's instances like this, but I think this was just a depressed teenager and who it was reinforced, but it wasn't caused by the software.
Yeah, but without litigating that particular case, just show that there are people who are really leaning into this.
I think so, yeah. I don't think that it's as many as people think, and I don't think I don't think we're at the point now where it's like replacing girlfriends or whatever. But I do think, yeah, it is true that people find a great deal of comfort, especially if you're already lonely or you already have mental health problems. Um, like for example, if you have OCD or maybe like borderline personality disorder, and you find yourself seeking validation in a way that is very repetitive, that might be alienating or annoying to a person, you really you can ask your AI friend, especially now that the memories are getting longer, right? If you need to ask, did people like me? Do you like me? Every day, a dozen times a day or whatever, you can do that to a chatbot, and it's not going to say stop asking.
I guess the technology can go any which way. You say guardrails, but that brings up like, do we understand what this technology is well enough to regulate it? Right? Without, like with Google went totally the other way when they released their image generator, and like you couldn't find a white person in any sort of
Right.
European history, right? Because they were trying to put in guardrails that were, to one degree or another, just ridiculous and awful. But but you want some sort of guardrails. But do we know what we're guardrailing?
It's a tough conversation. I spoke to someone who's working on an AI chat, uh, recently, and he expressed that he knows that there needs to be safety guardrails, but he doesn't know where to put them because you don't want it to be too constrained. Um, so I think there's different philosophies to it. Um, right? Like, who can use it is itself a type of guardrail. It's difficult to enforce, maybe impossible. Um, there's, obviously internal ones like the one that you discussed with the Google image generator. A lot of these bots like won't let you sext them or talk about violence. Yeah, it's hard, but it's a difficult question. Like where do you place them?
Mm-hmm.
It's not obvious. It's like moderation. Like community moderation on social media is not obvious.
Do you have you ever been a mod, like a Reddit moderator? You know who they call the
Right.
fags or whatever they call the.
I've been a forum moderator. I'm a Discord mod right now. And yeah, I find it very difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's because like you don't want to like conflict is not abuse, right? Like and you realize how difficult that is in an online community setting because people do cross the line, and I don't know, sometimes the line's in an obvious place like doxing or just repeatedly moving the conversation to a place that is ganging up on one person or a group of people. But yeah, it's hard. Like on my Discord server, I struggle with what topics do I want people to feel free to discuss? How much does it reflect back on me? And I draw the line on a case to case basis, but it's not easy because I think some level of conflict and disagreement it keeps a community healthy. But what type of conflict, what type of disagreement? I don't want people to feel surveilled. I mean, there's so many questions.
Yeah, yeah. What do you use your Discord server for? That's a really interesting thing. You have this kind of like this little swarm of busybody bees chatting in kind of your little garden.
Yeah, it's just a place to talk about the things I write about. There's like a spin-off Discord server. Some of the people became very close friends. I'm part of the spin-off too, luckily. Yeah, it's just at first, I mean, it was just a place for me to like promote my stuff to people who really cared.
And then it kind of took a life of its own.
Yeah, and then it grew, and it's the activity comes in waves.
Yeah, is there a feedback loop back into your work? And
yeah.
What does that look like? Like, what are some of the things that it's helped you to do?
So like I'll post a case study. I do these like ethnographic interviews about how people use the internet. So I'll post one of those, and maybe like it's a member of the community, so people discuss with the person who was interviewed or something they can relate with, and then the conversation naturally evolves and they talk about their own thing.
We opened up about the gender stuff, the gender wars, and how I got my start was talking about like a race riot, more or less, the college that I went to. And so I spent a lot of time looking at the racism issue in America and intersectionality and all that woke politics stuff. But eventually I tired of talking about race all the time because it seemed like a zero-sum game. And it was set up to be a zero-sum game. It was set up to be perpetually enabling people to make tons of money and for the state to use it to encroach more and more on the lives of individuals. It just seemed like a perennial topic that would never... there's no reason fighting it because it's not meant to be resolved. And I switched over to gender, and gender is kind of interesting because that's how we all get here. That's how we define ourselves a lot. There's a gender identity, and I don't think, people kind of disparage gender identity ideology because it leads to, a lot of kids being messed up or focusing or hyper-focusing on the wrong things and hyper-categorizing life too much. But I don't think we can really escape from gender. But the difference between gender and race is that gender is essential to being a human being, and it's generative of so much culture. The problem that I see with the gender wars is that so few people are missing the point of gender itself, which is to produce culture rather than to police culture. What do you think about that? Are you still interested in the gender politic, and where do you think, what kind of state do you see it in, and what are some good examples of like interesting developments or personalities or directions?
I mean, I think right now we're in sort of a gender winter. Sounds weird.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like people sort of exhausted themselves talking about how we express gender. Now we're in this hyper polarized, constantly fighting over nonsense. Everyone's evil all the time. It's like, yeah, it's like turbo tribalism right now. But I think that's more a reflection of the state of discourse in general. Like, it's a good way to get everyone, like, we're still all online, and it includes everyone. Everyone talks about it. Everyone writes about it. But it's also like very boring, right? Like, how many, like, it's just, there's no nuance. But I think it's a reflection of where we are with discourse. That's why I say it's like a winter. Nothing is coming of this. It's just fighting for, I don't even want to say sport, because like at least sport, there's something to it. We're not going anywhere. It's just a new sort of topic every day, a new complaint. So something needs to happen to redirect the discourse somehow.
Do you,
I think here's what I think. I mean, I think part of it is we're going to get burnt out on social media, first of all, and then we're going to get burnt, and then those of us remaining online are going to get burnt out on these sort of bigger bigger back and forth arguments, and it's going to people say there's no monoculture now. I think there still kind of is one. I think we're going to actually see what fragmenting and moving into these dark forests looks like. And the gender war is the end of the empire.
Oh, really? The end of the unified kind of field of discourse.
End of I mean, also just end of this era of like being able to build a career, doing what you and I do.
Yeah.
That doesn't necessarily mean that we're in any particular trouble, but I think there's already been sort of a changing of the guard, and this is going to shake things up even more, I think. I also, and this is an unpopular opinion, but I think we're going to see
what have you missed?
Legacy media.
What have I missed? Anything good?
Voices. And we already see, I think, the strengthening of alt media, like the success of something.
Did I miss anything good?
Press, to me, is actually a sign that like a place like the New York Times or the Washington Post is going to get a second act.
Do you think they'll have to do not just a rebrand, but a real honest to goodness recalibration of their mode of collecting and disseminating information?
Right. I think
you're all stroking it. Dude, come on.
They will. But I also think
dude.
that there's too much noise and people don't know how to look for a signal.
That's messed up, bro.
And media is in a really weird place right now. And they still have a lot of cultural power, and they can regain it. And I think they will. And it's now the big difference is
what are we watching? Jewish slop.
Even like Joe Rogan, like they're not, those properties of that size are not.
No, Kathrine Dee is a very nice person.
It's just now we have two very robust information ecosystems.
Kathrine Dee is a polite woman, a very nice woman.
Do you see alt media turning into?
I don't know why people don't like her. She's very nice.
You'll have some right wing and the left wing ish, and the centrist kind of.
I don't know why people are mean to her, because she's just an innocent, nice person.
Brands or valves, outlets, I guess.
You guys are just haters.
I think the centrists.
You guys are just haters, honestly.
Sort of de facto on the right, like they're in that. I think there's two ecosystems, right? So there's two there, where there's power players in each one. Center and right is on one side, and the left is on the other side.
Mm-hmm.
You guys are just mean, weird haters.
In the sense of like they'll have the
dude, come on.
Authority as
come on, dude. That's just not appropriate. This is on mean to women.
Like I said, I like if I could invest in,
Trying to get comfy.
if I could buy stock,
Trying to get warm. It's getting the winter. I like the winter. I wish it was dark and cold all year round.
So,
I want to go to that area where it's dark 24/7.
What is there, Emma?
I'm going there. I'm going to go to Alaska where it's dark.
Maybe, they do a good job of sort of including.
I want to make it a yearly thing.
Voices, but
I'm going to go to Alaska every year when it's dark 24/7.
Because of their,
and
they're newer
like
and they have
get a place to stay for like a week or two.
They get sort of shuffled into
no sun for a month.
They're not.
Yeah, I'm going to do that. No sun for a month thing.
Alt world.
And just write in darkness.
They're not.
Just live in darkness and write there for a month.
Something that's like explicitly right coded or right wing.
Yeah.
Stop shaving the sides; it will look ugly. Well, dude, look. Here's the deal. What I'm doing is shaving the sides right now, and then as it goes a little longer, eventually I'm going to stop shaving the sides. I'm just letting this top grow out.
Let's need a unifying vision.
Kill yourself and it'll be dark and cold forever.
Don't they? Like the New York Times, it doesn't have a vision, but it has an aura, and it is kind of
the heck.
Voices. You could be diverse while also having a distinct presence.
Okay. Yeah. But like
aura.
Vision of the world. I'm just wondering, like, I guess the brand then dictates the worldview in a way. Because we're talking about media outlets. We're talking about ideological propaganda.
Right. Yeah, I'm not solar. I'm lunar.
Term. Like you're imprinting truth telling or meaning making within a coherent.
If it ends up looking worse than expected, no, that's gonna look great. It's gonna look great. My hair looks great when it's grown out.
Yes, but I would give them a little bit more credit and say that.
But if I need to go bald, I can.
A dozen viewpoints.
What did Nick mean when he said you're going through twink death? Zoomers, look, Nick's a little younger than me. And I like Nick, right? Obviously, but Zoomer, I hate that word. Zoomers are fine saying that. I hate that term. That term, I legit, it's like a generational thing because it's literally just it's a gay term. It just stands for a twink is literally short for Twinkie, and Twinkie is like a cream puff. It's like filled with white cream, which is semen. That's all it is. So I hate that term. I literally hate that term. When I heard that, I got really triggered. I got extremely triggered. I said I might be DMing Chris Brunette. I might be DMing Chris Brunette very soon.
Times editorial pages or the guest editorial spots and kind of
I got triggered
them to code for free speech or constitution, which I saw a tweet about this. Like there's just all these headlines. It's like free speech is problematic. Maybe the Constitution, maybe democracy's, maybe voting isn't the best thing for democracy, stuff like that, and this controversial opinion, who knows who wrote the title, but the New York Times isn't necessarily saying that. They're allowing that conversation to happen. And so people kind of flatten the editorial process of discussion in order to castigate the New York Times but maybe they're a little bit,
Did you look at a picture of Frankenstein while shaving?
That they've been going.
Yeah. Yes, I did.
No, I think that's an accurate description of it, right? That's a choice whether or not you want to use a word
very
that
good
everyone platform.
Very good.
There are definitely conversations they would never publish or viewpoints they would never publish because it doesn't fit their editorial line. But I would just be careful about saying like the newspaper believes they promote this view, and this view.
Yeah.
Which I agree with your description generally.
So somebody asked me what the direction of the culture war is going to go in a couple weeks ago. I think just in the wake of Trump's reelection, and I intuitively just said it's going to be the classical liberals versus the rightists, and you kind of affirm that by saying that there's the left and then there's the centrists and the rights, and the righties and the centrists were kind of going against the left because the left had cultural hegemony and they were acting way out of bounds. And since they kind of hobbled themselves, it seems to me that the left has kind of left itself actually in a way. And, in the wake of Trump being reelected, Antifa didn't show up. Their rhetoric pivoted from calling Trump Hitler to, like, here you go, take the country. I'm so happy. And maybe, I don't know what he was thinking. Maybe.
Hey, Paul, can you whip a nene? I can actually.
For that photo op.
I can whip a nene.
So what I see, and unfortunately part of my job is to find tension and to look at it. all politics is contention, and I have a political podcast, whether I like it or not. I try to be as humanistic as possible, but it's basically, it has to be a contentious issue because that's where the attention is. The attention follows the tension. So the tension between the centrists and the rightists is, I think, where the most probably generative place to be is, because I think the right is asking questions and the centrists need to answer these questions. And I see some of my friends on the center kind of taking a tack to try to turn the right into the same enemy as the left by the whole just calling them the woke and just refusing to actually engage with those questions. I think that's a losing strategy. I think that the dialectical resolution between the classical liberal, I don't think they're centrist. I think classical liberal, the greatest trick that classical liberalism ever played was to put itself in the center and say everybody else is the extremist. Right. That's how I'm thinking right now. Well, are you interested in that? Do you have any insights or about the coalition between the center and the right?
I think you're right, because I've been noticing this, and I've been looking at my feet when I put out like a list of just like guesses at the beginning of each year. And my guess for 2024 was basically what you're describing, like a post-right, not just classical liberals really, but people who had been on the right who are moving away from it. And I think some of this is like they have genuine to them concerns, right? And I think also some of it is the right is now in power, and so that's just the way these. If you're looking at it sort of as a market, like you know what I mean. Like some people are going to start defecting for real reasons, but also sort of like market entertainment reasons.
Yeah.
And I don't want to discredit anyone or say that their whole project is just entertainment or whatever. But I think that there is an element of that there. So I've been calling it sort of. This is a term I stole from Academic Agent, post-right, but you see there's like these post-right sort of characters emerging, and
like
they
unless you don't want to name names, but I think we're being anthropological.
I don't think this is insulting, and I would imagine they describe themselves this way, but like I would say the star of the show is like Richard Hanania. He's definitely post-right.
Right.
But there's a lot of people who maybe they don't present in the conversation quite the same way he does, but they're bringing up the same concerns.
What could you draft those concerns?
So generally, it seems like he thinks that the right has too much black and white thinking. Throwing like the baby out with the bathwater with, for example, immigration. Right, that's something that he gets into it with the right a lot about. Immigration is good, actually, right? And here's why. I think he has a cultural problem with.
He's just the baiter. He's just a master at baiting, dude.
More general and sort of paints like a patina over all the other issues he takes with them. Another person in this same sort of cultured zone, right? And this is going to be maybe surprising and feel like, oh, she's not really political, is Radfem Hitler is in a sense like a post-right. She's
the best part about the internet stuff is everybody thinks that the people they're following are like the future. But none of them, nobody's the future. That's the future. The future is nobody. The future is the format. The future, not to be Marshall McLuhan because he sucks. But the future is like the format of the ephemeral. And everybody thinks that whoever they're following is like, whoever they like is like future. It's like, dude, everything's just curated for your specific tastes.
The left.
Which is not a problem, but nobody is actually the future.
So what's the direction in which one heads when they are post-right? I mean, I kind of consider myself a post-liberal. I'm a liberal culturally and methodologically, but I'm very interested in counters to liberalism. I'm very interested in the question, did liberalism cause what we're in? And I have no problems with, questioning the Constitution as this sacred document and even questioning whether or not it's actually has any power. Like if the stated constitution of government has anything to do with the government, itself? And does that say something about the reality of power? And, you know, like all the questions that the right ask and that the left ask and that could be put into the bucket of power politic and identitarianism. You know, I think there's some crawfish in that bucket, maybe not babies, but something to munch on.
Babies? You can munch on some babies?
But where does one go? When they're, I mean, where do we head?
It's like one of those creepypasta Discord calls.
Is it just infinite Discord?
3 a.m. Discord like call. You join a Discord server at 3 a.m. This is what you hear.
I don't know where we're headed.
What did I say to the barber? I didn't say anything. I shaved my head myself
to ask,
in the mirror.
I tend to think it's infinite discourse.
Yeah.
Does it help?
I think there's like there's also like unspoken things that sort of prop the discourse up that we're increasingly like verbalizing.
Just fuck my shit up. I said just fuck my shit up.
Is becoming explicitly discussed now. It's always been sort of discussed, but now more than ever before is what role does technology play in all of this? Like explicitly, like this is all happening on the internet. Like the internet is now like it's always been a character, but now it's like a full thing. It's not just the left, right? The government. What did the internet do to all of us? I think that's a major fault line. How do you feel about tech, more specifically the internet?
Call Veda, he's crying. Veda summoned Hitler, a gay Hitler, and gay Hitler raped him.
I started off as sort of a pessimist. Like it's, you know, it's everything terrible is downstream of the internet, but more and more I actually really like it. I'm more optimistic about it. Yeah, I mean, I think it's not that it's perfect, but I think it's actually a net positive. I used to think it was a net negative, but I don't agree anymore. I think we need to change, like we need to make it a little more difficult to use. And we need to address our usage, but it's ultimately a good thing.
What are some of the things that have changed your mind or switched your attitude towards the internet?
The number one thing that impacted me was seeing internet skepticism devolve into a moral panic, which happens. You know, it's always been happening with the internet, right? It's for over 20 years. But now being in the you know, cultured opinion space myself, right? Seeing people blame everything on it's the phones. It's like, well, that's not everything. It's not. It's the you know, your smartphone isn't the be all and end all of all terrible shit going on in your life. And I think there's a real push to make people think this. And getting offline is great, right? I don't think everyone should be online. We should make it more difficult to use, raise the barrier to entry. I don't think mindless scrolling is very good for anyone. But at the same time, it's not the cause of all loneliness, and you know, all destruction ever. And it does seem like a lot of people are saying that right now.
Looks like Soul is coming back. Of course it's coming back, dude. Of course Soul is coming back.
I guess you said that you had a couple of very important relationships, romantic relationships in your life, one of which has borne you.
Ooh, here we go. Here we go.
How in touch to the dating scene or the dating market or the dating situation are you? And is that changing? Is the way that people use Tinder, especially young people who are on the market, kind of people adapting to it and going in a different direction?
I think so. I think in-person dating is becoming more popular, and e-dating, so internet-assisted dating outside of dating apps. I think that
internet-assisted dating.
Internet-assisted dating, internet media dating. But I think
cybersex.
Nobody likes apps. But I mean, this is exactly sort of the nuance.
Cybersex on Discord.
For a certain, not everyone, but for a certain type of person, using, for example, Twitter to find your partner works great, and I would recommend it. But that, you know, that same person might not get the same mileage out of Hinge or Tinder, you know, whatever. Like I actually was like very good on dating apps, and I was it was like knowing what kind of shoes you want, right? and going in and just buying the shoes and walking right out of the store. It wasn't on forever. I knew the basics of what I was looking for. I was open to, variety. I just knew I needed a pair of sneakers, right? And now that, you know what I mean, though? I mean, that's a really imperfect analogy. Now that I'm
No, I
actually
like
saying
it.
out
I
loud.
like it. Yeah.
Right? You don't go in knowing I think it's a mistake if you're like, I need Nike sneakers that are green. You might not find them. If you just sneakers, then you're probably going to do okay.
And there are shoe fetishists, in the stores, for the store, that's great. They have somebody that keeps on coming back and trying all the shoes on, right?
Right.
But for most people, it doesn't serve the purpose. That's not the point.
Right.
Internet assisted dating.
Yeah. I mean, I've noticed like personals are coming back. I see them on like blogs a lot, on Instagram. There's a lot
what I
more...
should do? Have you ever run that? Have you ever like turned your show into or your station or your channel into...
I was one of the first Substacks to do it, and I almost regret. I did it in 2019, 2020. I had a personals section, and then I took it down because I was like, fuck this, it's lame. And then everyone started doing it.
Boom.
Oh, no. Ahead of the curve.
Yeah. But it's they're good, right? Because it's people who have the same
Beta worships black
the same
people,
community, and the same points of reference. And there's fewer choice, and if you have some stake in that community, you don't want to fuck it up and then be like, well, that was the weird guy who took that girl on a terrible date.
Yeah, no, I think the community aspect thickens bonds and ups the ante of responsibility, which actually helps you to manifest a better behavior and put your best foot forward, and then actually follow through and actually care about the person. Maybe. Yeah, I think so too. And you also just sort of get a sense of who they are. I think this is why Twitter dating worked for a particular, I don't want to say for everyone, because I think some people have had sort of disastrous experiences on it, as we do with all types of dating. But for a certain type of person and a certain type of subculture, actually, it's a really good idea. Because even if it's just online, so-and-so says that I went on a date with this girl, this like low BE girl, and it was terrible. And then it's weird for her, right? There's some sort of accountability. Oh, that's sad. Low tier E girl.
Yeah.
Ouch.
I don't know.
That's worse than being called mid. Yeah.
Well, I'm saying low follower count.
This is Beardson type Riz.
I know.
This is like nice Beardson type Riz.
Followers.
Beardson type Riz.
That's why we have that category. And it's a beautiful thing to be mid. I met my wife on my podcast. I didn't intentionally happen.
Beardson type Riz.
I interviewed her, and then we had a few conversations, and we met in person, and things took off. But yeah, that was a very interesting thing. She likes to decry the internet a lot, but I'm like, well, is that because it brought you, or despite that it brought us together?
Beardson type vulnerability.
See, that's why it's those kinds of stories that make me an internet realist instead of an internet pessimist. Like, there's bad things, but it's not like that's good. It's that's a lot of people like need those kinds of connections, and they improve their lives, and we should be happy for those stories.
Yeah.
Want to hear more of them.
What about the arts? You recently put a lot of effort into a wonderful production and part of your work has been about kind of internet culture, which is kind of the art aspect of this. What's kind of like, are you connected to the art scene, or like, do you see that it's shaping, like with AI? We don't have to get into the whole AI yay or nay thing, but like, how is culture shifting on an aesthetic level via the internet? And then might that be a refuge away from this tribalism or polarization or this hate?
No, I don't think so. No. I think there are art forms online, but it's not in like an art world per se. I mean, maybe there's like certain art niches, but I guess it depends on how you define the arts.
Yeah.
Fan fiction is the arts in some sense, but it's not in the art world. It's not in the literary world, certainly. Yeah. I think though, as so much ink has been spilled about how those sort of institutions each year become smaller and more cutthroat. There's some alternative venues, right? But it's you struggle because this is something where you inherently need an audience, right? But there's not the same audience for the arts as there is for a hot take or politics.
Mm-hmm. And there's no spilling over.
Hating art is art.
Things.
True.
There is a little bit, but not as much. I mean, I think like there's ways around it, right? Like, you know, certain podcasts that include politics can be a form of art.
Mm-hmm.
But it's more in terms of like an art world or a literary world. It feels like it's still sort of picking itself.
Bebo, My Lord Bebo is one of the worst accounts.
Maybe this is going to sound like contradictory. At the same time, the internet has opened up the space for arts outside of those institutions. Mm-hmm. It's just whether, you know, how you perceive them, how, like where you think they fit into the grand scheme of things.
Mm-hmm. Are you aware of your creative process and what's the shape of it?
I'm sort of just always putting stuff down. I mean, it depends on with what,
yeah, College Blackboard is legit a filter. It's like if you're a person with a soul, you will not use College Blackboard. You can't do it. It filters out anybody with like self-respect.
Process, right?
College Blackboard legit is like the end of anybody who does College Blackboard. I lose respect for.
We let the story emerge from these interviews. The music helps shape it. I recently got a producer who's very talented, and he helps turn it into a composed piece.
Is that strange for you?
No, I like it.
Going through that next kind of iterative process.
No, I think it's very fun. It feels like
this is like Charlie Rose.
It's more.
It's like Charlie Daffodil.
For me, the stories I wanted to tell just weren't landing in the format I was choosing.
Yeah.
And I've found that I express myself much better in these more choreographed pieces, whether it's writing or like I've sort of changed my Substack a little bit. So each individual piece maybe isn't that interesting, but taken together, it's interesting. My articles are a lot longer now, and go deeper. Like I wrote a very long piece about the true crime community recently. And that is a fandom basically for serial killers and
really
shooters.
Cool, dude. Nice.
And that doesn't lend
Bro
itself
thinks he's
to
mogging.
500 words, 800 words.
Bro's mogging.
Words. I mean, that was like a 6,000 word meditation on it.
How many views does Scott right now?
I prefer that.
79 people watching. That's crazy.
It was a lot. It was a lot about
I thought this guy got more views.
How
I thought this was
events are
never mind, dude. I didn't know there's only 79 people watching. Okay.
Like, our teen angst, like something that's so degrading about teen angst is that it feels like it's
why are you watching this
justified. Like
because Kathrine Dee has some good insights sometimes. So I thought this guy might have some good questions. So far, I've not been impressed. I'm not really depressed. I'm not too shocked.
And so
I thought it'd be a little more interesting.
Like you see this also in like the melodrama of a program like Euphoria, right? It's almost like giving the gravity that we think our feelings deserve, right? It's giving it this vessel. And what's really happened that's sort of like perverted is that
no, I can't. You guys are just too crass. I could never have her on.
Who view school shootings or murders in the same way, where it's like I am so angry at the world right now, and this is a symbolic vessel for my pain. And part of that is how these events are expressed in media and how their lives are so mediated. Their lives are just oversaturated with mediation. They can only understand their feelings and they can only understand the world through media. So it was an interesting piece to write.
Yeah.
And it was difficult because it's hard to, especially as an adult, to find the compassion for a 15-year-old who is like seemingly being flippant about something so horrifying.
Are you too far removed from that flippancy yourself? Do you have to suppress a more conservative mind frame or like a more aged perspective to get into a sympathetic
I have to say, I don't
mindset?
know if I have to suppress anything, but like over time, my knee-jerk reaction has been like, sort of like grow up, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
the more you sit with it and the more you think about it and the more you have to sort of consciously remember what it felt like to be that age.
Well, let's watch
the
Theo
more you can
Vaughn /
understand
Mr.
it.
Beast. No, Mr. Beast is
Yeah.
gay.
And I think that's true for a lot of things.
The Norwood Reaper
and
has
that's
visited
been
this nigga.
I think this is changing now, but that's been sort of the missing piece when people talk about the extreme politics of young people.
I want to hear more about like the online
I
stuff,
think
not
they're in a
true
very
crime. I want to
chaotic
hear about like
information
Twitter,
space,
what's evolving, that sort
and
of
they're
thing.
filled with a lot of feelings. I mean, that sounds kind of
Well, does the
maybe
4B movement
dismissive
make rape
to put it like
justified?
that,
No,
but,
4B,
of
rape is
course,
simp
like
behavior, dude.
a young person would
Sorry.
be drawn to
Rape is
something
wrong.
like,
It means you're idolizing
communism
the P word.
or fascism on the other side of the spectrum. It makes sense if you think they're being assaulted by all this information. There's no stability. And if you ask people who believe these things, they all sort of have the same kind of background, right? It's like the ultimate like order, sense making thing, right?
Like what?
I mean, like the more extreme political positions are like one of the ultimate like sense making tools for a young person. It gives you an identity, a community, and it explains the world at a moment where your insides are so chaotic,
Yeah, only if it's a political, only if it's a violent rape. Oh, gay rape. Gay rape is the only non-gay rape.
Right? And everyone's saying something different about this disease.
Gay rape is the only non-simp rape.
You're in your room alone. Bullying has gone way up because everything is online, right? It makes sense, right? Like it makes sense that you would be drawn to something that gives you a sense of purpose and a sense of understanding for the world. But if you just look at it sort of, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, if you look at it.
I was going to say, like, if you just look at just some random like 16-year-old tanky on whatever website, like as an older person, like your knee jerk, for me at least, is like, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about, shut up. But if you really think about it,
yeah,
it's a much different situation.
Girlfriend is a poster, I know it's serious.
Riz God.
Or see it all.
Of course.
Goat. My goat.
Coma.
Yeah.
Wag.
I spoke with Eddie Murphy last night. I don't know how these episodes will be published.
I need to upload this now.
Seems like you guys are two different. You're both. We're all three of us. Like we're all in the same meeting.
We are upvoting this, and we are liking
to a certain
this.
extent overlapping audience members or whatever. We circulate audience. And we got into kind of like her life and how she, like what her values in life are and how she sees a lot of people promoting family and stability. And
actual Beers and Riz. I told you guys.
It just confuses her why that's an ideal for so many people. You are, however, married with children and you're becoming more and more, it seems like you're adapting to that. Well, at least your work. And maybe it's just completely coincidental, but you brought in a producer. It seems like you're becoming more, not just stable, but more, what is that? Established? Like, is that a reflection on your development? Like how your world is changing? Yeah.
I think I started taking myself more seriously. I sort of was all over the place before. And part of that is I have less time. I want the lion's share of my time to be with my son. But this is still important to me. So I have to be more intentional. And also I want to be proud of the work I do because like, I think of it like this, like if I'm just like firing off whatever like bullshit hot take, I don't know if I ever did that, but let's say for argument's sake, I did firing off a bullshit hot take. Like that's a, 90 minutes, 2 hour, whatever, however long it took, I could have been doing anything else. And so it just feels sharper somehow. And just like having, just more respect for my time and what I put out in the world.
Are you religious, post-religious, a-religious, anti-religious?
I fade in and out. Sort of religious.
Yeah. Is that has motherhood brought that into sharper relief, or?
A little bit. I want to raise my son with religion, but my own relationship with it has been so inconsistent. He's still very young, so we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's good to have people you have things in common with, sort of available and in your immediate environment.
Do you see the internet becoming, or people on the internet, or just our culture via the internet becoming more religious, less religious, or
more religious?
Some
people are
more
older,
religious, and some people are less religious, which is a boring answer to that, but I think it's true. I
mean, does religion translate well to this online environment, or how does it translate?
It does translate. I think, unfortunately, for a lot of people, faith becomes about, first of all, identity seeking in a way that it doesn't always, if you're finding faith through the physical world, right? Not just a church, but a synagogue, a coven, like whatever it may be. And something else I've picked up on is a lot of religion seems like a means to an end in a really interesting way. Manifestation's been really big for years. That's sort of the new age magical way to talk about it. But you look at like prosperity gospel. It's also very popular. Praying your way into who you want to be. It's like everything seems to be boiling down to that. And I don't think that's the point. I was just on another show talking about this a couple of weeks ago. I think that's the danger of the internet and religion, that it becomes a tool to get stuff, right? As opposed to, anything.
Slave,
else,
you need to relax.
Right?
Jeffy, you need to relax.
You brought up the word mediation in several contexts, and then you did a clever wordplay by tying it to media.
You need to be more like Benjamin A. Boyce.
The internet, in the word internet or World Wide Web, there is it's fundamentally a realm of connections, which is fundamentally a realm of mediation. And then you brought up kids who have too much mediation in their lives or not enough mediation in their lives, and how extremism or even religion can factor into filling the gap, or either releasing pressure or increasing pressure to adjust meaning to the proper sphere of mediation, or connection to the proper sphere. I'm wondering if you, this is kind of a really big question, so I feel like it's a bad question, but I guess part of not media literacy, but internet literacy, or internet etiquette, or even hygiene, is about understanding what you're being connected to and why. I wonder if you have any thoughts on that. That's the stupidest question I can come up with.
I don't think it's stupid. I think there are better and worse things to be plugged into. One of the ways I create taxonomies of the internet is, I think there's, on the most basic level, there's a normie commercial internet. And that's the internet that is everyone knows about. It's the memes that make it into mainstream media. It's trying to sell you something. It's stories without much nuance. It can be politically inflected one way or the other, right? And then there's a subterranean internet, the internet of communities, of meme making. It's the stuff that rises to the surface every now and then, right? There's more anonymity, there's more pseudonymity. It's not as commercialized. It's maybe rarely commercialized. And then in between that, there's a center, right? There's ambassadors from the subterranean internet to the normie internet.
Mm-hmm.
And I think,
is he still thanking it? Nice, very cool.
Different people, different ways.
Very
to
cool.
To each
Graper.
layer can be good and bad, right? So, to give concrete examples, because I'm answering this in a very general way, maybe my broad answer isn't a good one. There's a lot of criticism about women scrolling TikTok and just getting jealous, and the filter they're getting selfie dysmorphia or whatever, right? And that's one very specific expression of like the commercial, like normie internet that I agree is like doesn't really do anyone any good. And it is right to tell people to be mindful of that. It is wrong to say that is the full experience of TikTok or Instagram, because also on those platforms,
yeah, I need more songs. He needs to sing some more.
Subterranean way. There are
75 viewers.
You know, like I used to learn languages through these same platforms, right? And it's more community based. It's more niche. You have to go looking for it. It's not easy to find. And then to flip it, right? The subterranean internet can get you believing all sorts of weird, out of touch shit. You know, like it can radicalize you politically, or maybe it can get you really into a certain fetish and it starts negatively impacting your life. And maybe you are better served by just mindlessly scrolling cooking videos instead of being so plugged into some weird sex niche that's making you a freak.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
You hear that, guys? You hear that? Are you listening? This is for you.
So I hope that I think that feels incomplete. Hopefully that answered.
No, I think
your question, at least partially.
I think well, as time goes on, we'll have more stories of people's transit through these different domains, and you know, diving into very niche places that are, let's say, dark or perverse in one way or another, or just disconnected from reality, and then like their path back out of that, and like what interrupts those radicalizations or those extreme things, and then how do you walk back and where do you find
I interview people all the time, right? I do at least one interview about someone's internet usage a day, and I keep them and I slowly release them as case studies. And people who are down the rabbit hole, and there's all sorts of different rabbit holes to go down, right? The thing that interrupts them usually is a physical world commitment, and there's many different kinds. The common one is a romantic partner or going to college. For a lot of millennials, this is the case. And another one that I think is really interesting, because I actually experienced this myself for a short time, is moving to a city that demands a lot of your senses. And it exhausts people in such a way where they can't be so plugged in. And I think that's really interesting.
So you moved to a war zone for a period of time? Is that what you're saying?
I moved to New York in the early 2010s, and I had lived in the suburbs. You see.
I'll be back in a minute.
And there was too much. Like I couldn't be mindlessly online because there's too much. Like I walk to the grocery store. I walk back with all my grocery bags. I walk up a flight of stairs. Like all of these, using my body so much. By the time I get home, I don't want to be living in this other world. And I definitely don't want to be ambiently online all the time when I'm trying to focus on getting my shit done.
Ambiently online. Oh, did you break up?
I'm still here. I can't see you, but I can hear you.
That's fine. Ambiently online. What do you mean by that? That's a beautiful phrase.
So just sort of always being online throughout the day, like you're grazing the internet.
Yeah. Yeah, I wonder if oh, there you are.
Yeah. We're back.
So I guess you just said that you interview somebody at least once a day about their internet usage. And at some point, I love saying this because I'm getting to be an old man, so I repeat things. But at some point, anecdote becomes data.
Right.
What is the general landscape? And I guess you've already said that the internet, it's not a bad thing. It's kind of like I kind of have an ambivalent relationship ideologically to it. I'm like, well, yeah, it can do a lot of bad things, but like it's brought me a lot of good. So you just have to know how to use it. How is it shaping people? How's it? And I guess we can. You can break that down however you want. How's it shaping young women? How's it shaping young men? Or how's it shaping us?
It's different for it's different for everyone. I think some people there's a lot of bad, right? I'm not going to deny that. I hear a lot of stories that feel very disturbing to me, whether it's the content, like people get into disturbing content. There's also a lot of stories where people lose big chunks of time that I find very sad and very disturbing. Like they're just mentally absent because they're so invested in a community that might even bring them a lot of joy, but the world around them just goes by, and I find those stories really sad. So there's a lot like that, but there's happier stories too. I hear a lot of stories about friendship, people making lifelong friends who maybe grew up in a place where they felt alienated, and they found durable relationships over the internet. I think that, it's definitely anything you could have said about television or printed media. I would agree. For some people, it turbocharges that, like in terms of body image, right? And not always for the obvious, like we're comparing ourselves to influencers, but because there's more, depending on what subcultures you're in, like more and more granular ideas of what beauty is can emerge, and we can become attached to that. Yeah, it's shaping people in all sorts of ways. I think it definitely, for better and for worse, is very good at giving people like.
Yo, I just got shouted out by Drake live
to navigate the, as particularly people
Drake is not live on Kick,
growing
dude.
up. People who feel like they're without a culture, without a religion, or maybe without a family. Right, the internet's like a place to.
Not even live. You're just lying, dude.
Meaning.
Where's my shout out? It's over.
Sometimes that's great, right? Sometimes you
check this out though.
You find God and your best friends, and you go to a great college, and it all works out. And then sometimes, you sign up for an online interview with the name Hitler's top guy to troll some random middle-aged woman online, and and you end up realizing, oh, actually, I believe all this stuff, and I'm really sad, and whatever.
This is Monero.
Did you ever have an aspiration to be an academic?
Yes and no. I don't think I have the personality for it. I think maybe, I don't know if I lack the discipline, but I don't know. I lack something, so I never tried.
Yeah.
But but there's parts of it that appeal to me.
We're about to hit
Jane Goodall
a pump, dude. We're about to hit a crazy pump.
Just to coin a term.
That's crazy.
Academic or institutionalized or not, what
you're participating
in is a form of internet anthropology, and you're creating documents, durable documents that record that. I'm just wondering if you are yet aware of a systematic, of some sort of methodology or systemization.
Remember, you can go over here,
your
right?
discipline as a discipline, or of your work as a discipline.
Yeah. There is.
You guys forget about this?
Digital anthropology.
You go to ferret.cash/Paul. You can send me. Send me a Monero. Why not? Why not send me a Monero?
Are they joke fields? No. Okay.
Send me a Monero.
Yeah.
You can do that easily. You send me, I want to send $216 of Monero.
There's so much that it's so big, right? That there's so much work that still needs to be done.
Yeah.
But there's people who.
Send me Monero. Why not? See what happens. See what happens. Send me 100 Monero now.
There's an internet aspect in a lot of disciplins, right? So
I need to pump right now. You got to pump it up.
Literature that emerges.
You got to pump it up.
Any configuration you can think of exists.
Did I hear about Tornado Cash? I heard about it. I don't know anything about it though. I don't really pay attention.
The nature of academia constrains it in certain ways.
Yeah. What kind of is your constraint, or are you more of a generalist? In the pattern, looking back over those few years of what you're doing?
I'm sort of a generalist. I think I focus a lot on heavy internet use, so not just casual users, like people who are spending 12, 14 hours a day online. And I'm also very interested in internet relationships, like romantic relationships online, and how they impact people, and when are they real, right? When are they durable? Real is a bad word. It's just something that I've realized doing this kind of work. Real is never a good word, but when are they durable? When do they have longevity?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You put a nice taxonomy between the normie internet and the I don't know, the niche internet or the subterranean internet, and then like this intercessor layer. And I guess that you're conceptualizing your role as the intercessor or the ambassador between those two. What, where would you recommend people go if they want to go deeper? If like a normie stumbles upon this and they're like, oh, I want a rabbit hole. Like, what have been some high rabbit holes that come highly recommended? Like, we don't have to say, well, if you want to do a trigger warning, like, okay, if you really want to mess up your mind, then go in this direction. But if you really want something that's totally off the wall bonkers, here's another direction.
No, I don't want to have, because I don't know what's going to upset people. I don't know it's going to be too much for them. And like, I'm so desensitized at this point.
Okay. Well, what's been really super fun or surreal or one that like almost caught you?
So something that I really enjoy is looking at people who are super into dolls. That's an interesting rabbit hole to go down because they get so personalized and it's such artistry.
My wife, Jack.
There's also weird aspects of it too because at first you're just seeing the OOAK, so one of a kind dolls, and it's like this beautiful art. But then like the deeper you go, the more likely you are to
Thank you, Groper Gosling.
where like these dolls are their children, and not like the reborn dolls, but that's certainly one way you could take it. Reborn dolls are dolls that intentionally look like human children and are treated like human children. I travel all around the
How about Blep on bass? Is Blep on bass going up? Let's check it out, actually. Yeah, it's not going up. What are you talking about? You lied. You lied, Jeffy. If you're white, you love Bjork. If you don't love Bjork, you're not white. You're not Hyperborean. You're not Nordic.
The cryptic pregnancies.
All Nords.
Where there's these
all true Nordicists love Bjork.
They've been pregnant for 6 years, and that's really strange. And there's spiritual dimensions to it, and but just like personal, like custom, highly worked on dolls just could open you up to. There's so many different rabbit holes that could take you down, and none of them will really upset you that much.
Bjork is not Bjork. Bjork is Bjork. Bjork is from Iceland, dude.
Endless interest.
Hope Master, you're a hater.
That almost caught you in its clutches.
This is going to surprise nobody, and I almost don't want to say it, but I'm going to say it. I collect dolls.
Oh.
And I love dolls, and I've always loved dolls since I was very young.
Man just said, a girl said,
like people who,
I collect dolls, and this grown man said,
dolls kind of thing.
You collect dolls?
There's a bunch of dolls, but there's also this weird thing.
Beards and Riz.
Some doll collectors.
Beards and Riz be like, you collect dolls?
Ooh. But they look at it and see subtle micro changes.
Beards and type Riz.
And they're not like delusional.
You collect dolls?
It's not like they're not like psychotic, but it's just like they're so surrounded by these just static faces that they start to project facial expressions onto them. That's sort of another interesting kind of thing you can get. There's so much there.
Tell me more.
Haunted.
You collect dolls? Tell me more.
Plenty of TikToks of dolls that are allegedly possessed by, whatever dead prophetess or, whatever.
Ooh. Brett said, ooh.
Is the internet a doll to
you? Ooh.
No, the internet's a place.
You collect dolls? Ooh.
With dolls in it.
Bro really said, ooh.
Kathrine Dee,
ooh.
Where can people find you? And
you collect dolls?
Get there?
Ooh.
You can find me at default.blog, and that's my
Bro
blog.
Really said,
podcast, which is like audio documentaries about different stuff, usually communication technology, from radio to MMORPGs, case studies, which I
Bro said,
here, and then the occasional essay synthesizing it all.
Yeah. What's coming up?
Oh, that's awesome. Bro really said, you collect dolls?
I big piece coming out. I won't say the magazine, so I won't jinx it, but
Ooh.
synthesizes everything I've done with my case study work so far.
Oh,
And it's sort of like a
wow.
grand theory of
bro really said, wow.
use.
Wow.
And you don't know when that'll be dropping, but it's on the horizon.
It's on the horizon.
Best content on the internet.
Spam the hell on every platform once it is.
Cool. So, do you have a favorite recipe that you've mastered and that you can share with anybody? Is that too
Bro just asked for a favorite recipe.
No, it's not too personal.
Ooh.
I'm trying to think of something that
Mac and cheese.
it's actually good to recommend because I make a lot of shit. I love just like buying weird dairy products and trying to turn it into something. But there is a Arabic
Bro's soy
rice
jacking.
called al-Kabsa.
Bro, dude, he's out of control. His wife needs to take away his internet now.
And so
It's not that funny, dude.
ALKABSA. Let me double check. There's like allspice in it.
Any recipes you'd like to share with me?
Yes,
Kathrine, any recipes you'd like to share with me?
And it's a very unique taste, but it's like the kind of thing that everyone would love.
Bro, you got any?
It's great for.
You have any recipes you'd like to share with me?
It's side dish.
Yeah. Do you guys celebrate
Are
Thanksgiving?
you Polish? No, I'm American.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah. Did you disinvite all of the?
What's up, Mr. Bean Grover? Hit the follow button if you're not following.
Like that, or is it like an open house?
It's an open house. I think I have the weirdest, again, scare quotes, politics of anyone in my family, but and I'm still here and welcome with open arms.
Oh, wonderful. Well, thanks
Mr. Bean
very much for
just followed on Cozy.
spending some
Thank
time
you for the follow.
and returning to my show. Every time I interview you, you're in a completely different place. First time it was a hotel room, then a wee space. Now you're on like some sort of like the lawn of Mar-a-Lago. Or Mar-a-Lago.
Oh, that's right. I was the wing. I was in the wing the last time we, and I always like, sometimes I'll like go back and look at that because I took a shower there, but I didn't realize they only had conditioner. So my hair was like just really, I fucked up my hair like minutes before. And then I tried to cover
It's not that
with,
funny.
a filter, but it didn't really work.
Well, I'll link that conversation.
Is it that funny, dude? Is it really that funny? Do you actually think it's that funny?
Yeah.
I don't think it's that funny.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, my pleasure. And there we go.
No outro even? Crazy. But that's an upvote. Great interview.